Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're really glad to have so many of you joining us today. I see some familiar names joining our session. Ooh, thank you for your continued interest. Good to have you back. You know, one of my favorite things that we do here at NewsBank is digging into our historical newspaper archives. I usually go in with something kind of specific in my mind, and before I know it, time is flying by and I'm engrossed in all sorts of interesting stories that spark a forgotten memory or teach me something about a story that I didn't know previously, or coming across old pictures, advertisements, even insights into people I have a connection to. I just find them fascinating, and I know that I'm not alone. So today, that's what we're talking about. We are talking about the local historical newspaper archives offered at NewsBank, why they matter to your library, how they serve your mission, and how easy they are to use. We are here at the top of the hour. I see a lot of people are still joining us, but we are going to get started. We are glad you're here. My name is Catherine Bergerson. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at NewsBank. Working behind the scenes is my colleague, India Bradford Jones. You may hear me call out to her during the presentation today. And to let you know, the session is recorded. You will receive a copy in a follow-up email. Here is what we have planned for today on our agenda. Quick overview of NewsBank. Then we'll get into the heart of the discussion, the true value of local historical newspaper archives, how they support your mission. We'll talk about use and use case examples. We'll have a demonstration of how the archive works, and we'll talk about funding opportunities. If you have a question, you can look for the chat icon on your screen. It looks like this. We have a little screenshot of what it looks like. It's probably in your upper left-hand corner. If you think of a question as we're going through the presentation today, just type it in there. We'll route it to the best person to answer who will follow up with you. Also in that same section, there are handout materials. You can download this presentation, these slides, and the links that are in there so that you can refer back to them later. We'll also have a few next steps, and then we will wrap up with a challenge. Actually, we want you to challenge us. So we'll get to all of that, but to begin, our brief background on NewsBank. We have been a leading news and information provider to libraries and research institutions for more than 50 years. We aggregate sources from all around the world, bringing you and your patrons responsibly sourced, vetted, global news from multiple perspectives. Many of these sources are unique to NewsBank, and everything is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from any device. So whether someone is doing community research, family history, a student assignment, or it's just general curiosity, NewsBank resources are available. So I want to start with why this conversation matters so much right now. You know, newspaper archives, sometimes people think, oh, it's old dusty news, but you know, it's so much more than that. It is truly the day-to-day record of a community. It's those events, it's the people, debates, economic decisions, celebrations, crime, weather events. It is the story of a place. And one of the richest, most detailed, and most heavily used records of a community's life is the local newspaper. And it isn't just those major events, but everyday history too. School milestones, local businesses opening and closing, local sports, obituaries, community debates, cultural shifts. These are the stories that patrons come back to and want to explore again and again, or even track over time. So I think that all of us here appreciate that local history matters so deeply to our communities, But something that's changed, I want to talk about what's changed. It's how people expect to access that information. People want to search from home. They want quicker answers. They want to be able to look something up in the evening or the weekend when the kids are asleep or if they're traveling. And librarians, you are being asked to provide more support, more access, better service, often with limited staff time and limited resources. So this is really the intersection of several needs at once: preservation, access, staff efficiency, and patron expectations. And that's why digital historical newspaper archives can make a real difference. So before we talk about the format, let's talk about mission. At the highest level, digital newspaper archives connect directly to two of the library's most important responsibilities. First, preserving community history. Newspapers are a first draft of your community's history. The second, providing access to all. Libraries have always been a trusted steward of local memory. You are preserving, the stories of the neighborhoods, the families, the schools and businesses, the milestones in everyday life. But preservation isn't enough just the preservation piece. If something, can be technically preserved, but if it's difficult to find, difficult to search, or difficult to use, a lot of its value stays locked away. And digitization changes that. Digitization takes this incredible community record and turns it into something searchable, accessible, and genuinely useful to more people. And when we think about local history, again, newspapers, they're one of the richest resources that we have. Local newspapers are such a powerful record because they capture both the big moments again and those everyday moments. So for genealogists, they're invaluable for family history research. Students, they bring history to life. It connects the past with the present. For local historians or writers, they are foundational for verifying facts or uncovering new pieces of the story. And for libraries, they're one of the best ways that you can connect your patrons to the story of the place they live. So the content itself has an enormous value. So then the question becomes, what is the best way to make that value accessible? And that's where the difference between digital archives and microfilms becomes really important. Microfilm absolutely had, and in some places has, a very important role, but from a staff and user perspective, it comes with real limitations. With microfilm, you often have to pull it out of storage, load up the machine, make sure the equipment's working, and then spend the time to scroll manually for what you're looking for. And the patron really has to know what they're looking for and when they start. Of course, only one person at a time can use a machine. It's not always especially intuitive. It takes up storage. The upkeeping the machines, that can be costly. And in some cases, we're hearing more that microfilm is even deteriorating. So let's face it, it takes a long time to find what you're looking for, even when you have experience. And digital archives completely changes that. Instead of the manual process, users can search by keyword, browse by date, access the content again, either in the library or remotely, anytime from any device. You can see on your screen a quote, I really like this, from Kirkwood Public Library in Missouri, that they told us that their patrons really enjoy reading the newspaper on a tablet that still looks like the traditional newspaper. And we're hearing more and more like that. Also, with NewsBank, there are no seat limits. And that point is huge. You're no longer serving one user on one machine. You're making the archive available to the whole community at once, again, remotely and in the library. And that shift alone really changes what access looks like. One of my colleagues actually um, made the comparison to a record player and said, yes, vinyl is cool and it has its place. And, I like to be able, to touch the record and all of that, but I can't take it with me when I'm traveling or out for a walk, or I just want to quickly switch to something else. So, just because you have a record player doesn't mean you don't also want access to digital music too. So also then from the patron's point of view, digitized newspapers, they're simply easier to use. Instead of planning a library visit around a specific time or machine or reel, they can start from wherever they are. So as long as they have a library card and internet access, you can search in the evening, you can search from home or a coffee shop. If a question comes up at a family dinner, you can check it out on your phone, or when a school project is due. That happens at my house. We often find out about those around 8 o'clock the night before. Uh, a patron from Evanston Public Library told us, I can't tell you how foundational it has been for my research, which often happens at home in the early morning and before bed. So we're hearing more and more of that searching remotely. And because the digital archives are searchable, patrons often find more than they expected or that they were originally looking for. So, you might go in looking for one obituary or a particular person, and then suddenly discover a wedding notice or an article about your grandparents' business or coverage of your high school sports team, the neighborhood you grew up in. And that discovery piece, it's really, really important. It becomes fun and it becomes engaging, and it's a resource that people find is easy to use, and then they want to come back to it. So we know that it is not just better for patrons, but it can also be a big help for you and your staff and your colleagues at the library. This is just one of the most practical, and the biggest benefits is we don't have to tell you. Librarians are frequently asked to help with all sorts of questions and digging up information from funeral notices, local government notices, businesses. Something I saw on the news last week, information to help with planning high school reunions and more and more. So, when that process and answering those questions depends on microfilm, it can take a while. But when it comes to the digital archive, the workflow gets much faster. So that means staff can help more patrons more efficiently, they can answer more questions more quickly, and spend less time on just the mechanics of the retrieval process. Adrian Public Library in Michigan, they told us that it has become the default way that they search now. And Columbus Metropolitan Library calls their digital archive a game changer. It totally has changed the way that they serve patrons and that they are able to answer more questions. And again, that matters so much because you're being asked to do more with less. And anything that saves time without sacrificing quality or service is truly valuable. So digital archives help staff deliver that strong reference support while reducing the amount of labor it takes to get to the answer. And once patrons and library staff see how easy the archive is to use, something else tends to happen pretty quickly. Usage. Usage goes way up. So with that in mind, I want to take a few minutes to show you what this looks like in practice. I would like to share with you a demonstration of the Providence Journal. This is our integrated collection. We're going to take a look at how a user can search the local historical newspaper content, browse by date, move quickly from a search to a result, show how easy it is to work with the content once it's found, saving it, sharing it, using it to help answer a patron question. So Here we go with the Providence Journal. What you're seeing here is the page a patron would link to from the library's website. We call it a collection because it brings together multiple diverse source types from different publications into one easy-to-search interface. So the first line is the Evening Bulletin, which ran from 1863 to 1981, then the Providence Journal. Then we have 1981 to current, and this is the text-only or ASCII articles. Then 2017 to current, and these are all the pieces that make up the integrated collection. And that's really one of the biggest benefits here. Users do not have to go to one place for historical newspapers and another place for current news. It's all integrated into a single search experience. You may also see things like blog content or web editions. Web articles are especially important because they are one of our fastest growing source types. It's important we archive news that never makes it to print. So when someone lands on this page, they can either start searching right away or scroll down to see exactly what's included in the collection and go from there. For this example, I want to go to the Providence Journal Historical Archive, and I always like to start by checking out some of the very first editions we have on file. So let's go to a specific day. This is our calendar view. You can see which days the paper was published, highlighted in blue. Here we select a date, open up the issue, and here is the front page. It's so striking to me to immediately see the difference from today's paper in terms of the amount of text, images, even the size of the font is different. It's just fascinating. So you can click through the paper page by page, you can jump to sections. So I think it's fun to start by looking at where it all began. But let's do something more like news from the day you were born. That's often a popular place to start. I'll navigate back to our calendar view where we can search a specific day. I'll pick my birthday. Here's what the front page of the paper in Providence looked like on October 10th, 1976. Or I could jump over to the comics or the editorials or the sports page. It's also fun to see the old advertisements and see just how the paper was laid out. And this is where I can really go down a rabbit hole. But for the sake of time, now I'm going to show you how to search by keyword. Keyword search is very popular. Often patrons have an idea of who or what they're looking for and an approximate time period, but not necessarily specific details. So this is a really useful feature because it saves people from having to browse page by page if they're looking for something specific. And the time it saves from microfilm is really almost immeasurable. I'd like to share with you a keyword search my colleague recently did for our contact at the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services. Her name is Karen Malore. She's the Chief of Library Services. I'm going to type in her name with quotations. The quotes allow us to search only for results in which the first and last name appear together. And these are the results. Over here, you can see this toolbar. It lets you organize your search results. You can order it best, newest, or oldest. It's returning in the newest. And she was in a band. She was big in the local band world. She confirmed that this is her, which we thought was so cool. And in 1977, she was named to the All-American Band when she was 16 years old at Barrington High School. We can see she went to the New England Conservancy of Music in Boston, a bit of information about her parents. So you never know what you're going to find. And then if we zoom out, we can see what else is on the page. And we thought this was interesting, that there's an article about jobs viewed at the library. Now, isn't it funny that Karen Malore is in this article in 1977 at age 16, and now she is the director. And on the same page, there is a story about the library. So we thought that was so cool. And so did she. So it's those kind of serendipitous, unexpected connections that are exactly the type of discoveries that people love in the newspaper archives. It's local, it's unexpected, and turns a simple search into a really engaging story in memory. Once a patron finds something that they want to keep, there are several options. I'm going to show you an article I found featuring Karen and her band days that we definitely want to save. Here's what a preview of the article looks like. Then we'll open up the full page. Isn't this great? Now, up here you see a toolbar. You can email this page to yourself or someone else. You can clip out just a part of the article if you want, or perhaps just the picture and the caption. You can do that. You can download the clip as a PDF and print that. You can include a citation. Also, there's an option to save the content for later in a session folder or a personal account. So this is helpful, especially if a patron is doing research over time or you're doing research over time. You can build up a set of saved material and come back to it. There's also this link feature, which can be really helpful if you want to highlight a historical article, or perhaps it's a local anniversary or community event. You can share a direct link to that page, which can be very useful for the reference staff. For example, I'm sure you get calls from someone who's out of state asking about a relative or a local event. You can locate the article and send them this link directly. So it's not just a research tool, it's also a practical service tool for librarians. In a nutshell, this is the integrated newspaper archive that brings together historical image archives, full text news, current digital image editions, and web-only content all in one place. When libraries place a title-level link, it looks like this, from your NewsBank resource, patrons can easily and quickly recognize the newspaper that they want to click in and start using it right away. So what I hope that this showed is that NewsBank's historical archive isn't just preserved content, it's usable content. It's practical, searchable, and accessible in a way that really fits how today's patrons and the library staff actually work. And it's not just using it, it's to enjoy. I really love using it. One thing that we hear over and over from libraries is that once historical newspapers are digitized and they go live at the library, they become one of the most used resources in the collection. I'd like to share two case studies that show how use has grown dramatically. In this first example, if you take a look at your screen, this library has a book volume of about 84,000. In their first year, that was 2023, they hit 35,000 views, exceeding all expectations. And that was just the baseline. So they were at 35,000 the first year. In 2024, it jumped to 55,000. And last year ended with more than 70,000 page views. Very, very, very strong. In our next example, this customer has a much larger book volume. Their book volume is about 1.5 million. This customer launched their historical archive late in 2023 with about 6,000 views, thought it was off to a good start. So 2024 was really the first full year. Their total page views jumped to 87,000, more than 87,000 views. And then in 2025, more than double that at almost 200,000 views. Just incredible. So when that usage is high, the value becomes very visible. Actually, in another city, a customer told us, we're thrilled with the usage because this database is consistently our highest used database with over 2 million views a year at this point. 2 million. That's just one resource, this one resource alone. So while the digital archive may initially look like a major investment, the conversation often shifts once the library actually sees the usage. And when you start to look at cost per use over time, the historical archive often becomes one of the library's most affordable resources. And because the resource supports history, research, community engagement, and broader access to more people, it really checks a lot of boxes. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I want to talk directly about funding because we know this is a major consideration. We understand. A local digitized newspaper archive is a significant investment, and we recognize that. At NewsBank, we really see ourselves as a partner in helping your libraries make these projects possible. So that means we can talk through examples of how other libraries have funded their projects. We can work with you on payment plans, discuss timing and flexibility if paying all at once isn't the right fit necessarily for your budget cycle, or if a grant or donation comes in and you want to pay it off early. We understand. We know that every library situation is different. And so we really try to approach funding as a planning conversation. It's a planning conversation, not a roadblock. So in many cases, libraries find support in more than one place. I'd like to share some examples of successful fundraising strategies that we've seen, starting with involving the friends of the library. The first step is to have a conversation. Let them know about the opportunity. Talk about how it aligns with your mission. Invite that fundraising board in to show them a demo like we showed you today. We can help you find some compelling examples to use, and a champion might come forward. So it really starts with awareness. And then if someone on the fundraising board can really pick up that mantle, they'll get their friends to join the cause. So don't be afraid to ask. Some libraries connect the digital archive with elements of donor recognition, and that can be especially meaningful when donors care about local history and they want to leave something lasting behind. We have an example of a customer we worked with who offered naming rights by decade, which was a really innovative idea. So within the product, each decade of the newspaper could be named in honor of someone, and really was positioned as a legacy gift opportunity. You could consider tying the acquisition of the archive into a larger moment in the life of a library. If you're approaching a major anniversary, a 100th anniversary, if there is a renovation in the works or a broader capital campaign. In one instance, a customer of ours was able to get the city council to build the archive into the community's overall 150th celebration. So then the archive became part of the unveiling at the festivities. It was a great way to launch it and to build awareness with people in the community who are really likely to use and appreciate the archive. And on that point, actually, this year, if your programming includes celebrating the United States 250th anniversary, use our newspapers for content ideas. Our historical database starts in 1690, so we have more than 330 years of news to pull from. Little side note. but the historical archives can be used in so many different ways. But when it comes to funding, the way you frame it is really important. Investing in a digital newspaper archive, it's more than just a database. It's not just another library purchase or line item. It is truly a lasting investment in preserving and sharing and bringing to life your community's story. Every library is different. Every community is different. And every archive project has its own priorities, whether it's genealogy or history, anniversary planning, or that providing that broader access. And perhaps it is part of replacing, that microfilm workflow. So rather than leaving you with a one-size-fits-all message, what I'd really like to encourage you to do is to request a demonstration that's customized specifically for your library. And that way we can focus on your local titles, your patrons, your goals, and your budget realities. So if this conversation is resonating with you, the next best step is to let us show you what a solution could look like for your community. We would really love to continue this conversation. You can let us know, actually, the easiest way. There's a follow-up survey. It'll pop up as you log out, so don't jump off right away. As you log out, it'll pop up, and you can just check a box if you would like a complimentary demonstration. And finally, let's get back to that challenge I mentioned at the beginning. We are asking you to challenge us. What is something that has been on your, let's call it, historical archive search to-do list? Do you have something that you've been struggling to find, or it keeps falling to the back burner? Let us know what it is. We want to see if we can help you find what you or your patron is looking for. So again, in that survey that's going to pop up in just a few moments, as you exit, there'll be a place to enter in your challenge. We really want to see, what different ideas are out there, what exists, and what we can find together. And you know what, if you can't think of something right now, you may feel like, you're on the spot and it occurs to you later, reach out to us then. We're happy to help. Okay, does that sound good? Are you ready? Give us your challenges. Then on this slide here, these are some quick links to some of our most frequently accessed web pages and departments. So if you want to take some time and look more closely at the historical newspaper options on our website, here's a link. We also have a trove of other webinars and trainings, along with our customer service contact information. So I encourage you, download this presentation, save it so that you can quickly find what you're looking for in the future, and you can come back to us. As a last reminder, if you've thought of a question, please, I see that there are a few here. Yes, please type them in now. And again, we will route it to the best person to answer and respond to you. As you exit, okay, here it is. The survey is going to pop up. I'd love to know what you thought about today's section. If you'd like to request a demo, and please give us your historical archive challenge. I can't wait to see what you come up with. On behalf of the NewsBank team, thank you for sharing part of your day with us. We appreciate you. Goodbye.